on this Monday evening, August 24, 2020. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet and the waters that surround us, and I also pay my respect to elders past and present.
We thank you, Lord, for the honour of being called by our fellow citizens to this office of honour and trust. Give us grace, diligently and honourably, free from private interest or prejudice, to discharge the duties entrusted to us, to the common good and as in your sight, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Good evening, councillors and viewers. I've received an apology from Councillor McLaughlin, who's unable to join us tonight. I move the apology be accepted. Seconded, Councillor Sanderson. Thank you. All in favour? It's carried. Councillors, are there any declarations of interest? All clear tonight. Thank you. Confirmation of the previous minutes. Of a mover, Councillor Williams, seconded Councillor Miles. All in favour? Against? Are there any anything arising from the minutes you'd like to discuss, councillors? Nothing tonight. Thank you, councillors. Councillors, we've got some speakers for item 4.2 and 4.5. Councillor Sanderson.
Could I move, Mr Mayor, that we move items 4.2 and then 4.5 forward in the agenda to now?
Seconded, Councillor Miles. All in favour? That's carried. Thank you. And I think we'll start with Dr. Sharp. Dr. Sharp, are you with us now?
I am. That's very kind of you to bring me on so early.
That's all right. We didn't want you sitting around waiting. Thanks.
And I must say, it's a real treat to be allowed to address the meeting in person. It was always a bit strange to hear somebody else speaking my word.
Yeah, it certainly was. Yeah, we'll get back to it as soon as we can. Please go ahead, Dr. Sharp.
I'm going to speak tonight on behalf of, speaking on behalf of the Hunters Hill Trust. I'd say that we're really pleased to support the adoption of the best practice document included in the business papers for the Flying Fox Corridor. I'm speaking to the curbs and guttering. Yes, we're very pleased that Council has prepared a comprehensive list of the sandstone curb and channel, which we assume in that table that channel refers to guttering. And the best practice document looks really good. We're a little bit confused that the report from Form Architects speaks almost exclusively about curbs and not about guttering, because I would that the two are always treated together. So we assume that this is an ODS report. And we note the hesitation to commit to the formal heritage listing of sandstone curbs and guttering. But we understand that on account of time and cost, then that's probably reasonable to leave that until sometime in the future when it's possible to accommodate that. But that's all I have to say. We support this as a policy. The concept of having a policy and the wording of the document looks pretty good. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sharp. The recommendations there on page 138. Moved Councillor Williams, seconded Councillor Crassoy. Councillor Williams.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I'll move it with an amendment or with an alternative motion. It's not that controversial. Item 1, that the report be received and noted. And item 2, that the matter be further deferred until advice is received from the Conservation Advisory Committee.
All right, just one moment. We'll see if we can capture those words. Deferred until advice is received from the Conservation Advisory Committee.
Panel, sorry.
Panel.
Yeah. That's in accordance with part 5 of the original motion.
And we'll bring that up on the screen in just a moment. I'll come straight back to you, Councillor Sanderson, when we get that up on the screen. Councillor Williams, is that correct?
Yes, but I'd add in accordance with part 5 of the original motion.
You'd like to add that to that?
Yeah, it just explains why it's been deferred.
Okay. Councillor Sanderson, we'll just turn you on in a moment. Just wait a moment. Please go ahead.
Yeah, just one other point, Mr. Mayor. We do have a resolution of council which is noted at the bottom of page 138 of the report. We have to enact that as well, so that the public draft policy guidelines to go on public exhibition will also be a required part of that that resolution. I don't know whether we wish to incorporate it in the motion that's being moved tonight, but one way or another, it has to happen.
Councillor Williams? Oh, sorry, could you turn on Councillor Williams, please? Councillor Williams.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, happy, but it'll have to come back to council anyway, and we can deal with that then. But that's fine. Yep. Okay. I'm just following what we originally agreed to, and I think we need to go through those processes.
Very good.
Sorry, and
could you give us the words again, please, Councillor Sanderson?
Well, do you want me to read points 5 and 6 of the original motion?
Point 5's covered.
Yeah, okay. Well, point 6 is of the original motion was that draft policy and guidelines to go on public exhibition.
Councillor Crassoy, do you accept that amendment? We turn on Councillor Crassoy. Councillor Crassoy, are you there? Councillor Crassoy, go ahead.
For the sake of hearing what Councillor Williams has to say, I'll second the motion.
All right, thank you. Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, council at the meeting when it made the resolution on the 9th of June put some pretty clear statements as to what it saw as being appropriate process to get to the point. I note Dr. Sharp's comments, and I agree that it's great to be able to make a quantum leap forward and be able to have some draft guidelines for how these things could be implemented at an operational level. But I think it's important for us to ensure that we've got it exactly the way it needs to be. And we do rely on our Conservation Advisory Panel for heritage advice, which is the basis of this motion or of this policy. So I think it is very important that council seek their advice as to how this report is being framed. So I think we should just take one moment to get their advice, and then we can move forward. Just a curiosity, is the consultant the same person that we have on our local planning panel?
General Manager?
Through Mr. Mayor, Mr. Reneg is the person that has prepared and worked with us on this.
Yeah, I was just wondering whether it's appropriate to have somebody that's on the panel consulting being paid for by council. But anyway, that's a side issue. I think it's important, as I said, that this policy be developed and developed in a as inclusive as possible. And we do have that expertise, and I think we should take the time to look at it. And I agree that In terms of listing these properties, no one was saying that these curb and guttering, no one was saying that should happen overnight. There is a process to be gone through, and as we have now identified all these curbs and gutters through our asset management system, they've got ratings, which I'm not quite clear on what those ratings mean, but we can be assured that we know where they all are, and we can work to the process of seeing which of those could be potentially important enough to be listed. But it will take time. And as I think Mr. Krupa said at a previous discussion, we will have to review our LEP and DCP in the near future anyway, and we can bundle this along with many other issues that need addressing during that process if need be, and the costs will not be quite as prohibitive as shown here. So that's not an urgent matter, but it's something we need to be mindful of and work towards where appropriate. So I think at this stage I've said enough, but it's important that we get further input in relation to this matter.
General Manager, did you have a comment?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just in relation to the use of consultants and the LPP, the local planning panel is governed and is required to declare interests where they may have a conflict and remove themselves from the panel. And in this case, there are two separate matters, but I have confidence in the members of the LPP that they would declare an interest if there was any conflict. I just wish to share that with the councillors.
Thank you. Councillors, is there anybody wishing to speak against this amendment, the amended recommendation? Anybody wishing to speak for? Councillor Sanderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, it's always interesting to listen to Dr. Sharp and his views. I've looked at the recommendation as it stands at the present time. There are a few things I think we could tweak for improvement. I'm sure those sort of things will come out of CAP, and also we've also got the benefit of community consultation, and this great community will always chip in with an idea. I regard them as among our greatest expert panels, so it'll be good to hear from them on this issue.
Thank you, Councillor Sanderson. If there's nobody wishing to speak against, I'll pass it back to you, Councillor Williams.
I've no further to add, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. Those in favour of the recommendation as amended? Those against? Nobody against? Oh, thank you. That's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. We'll take Councillor Sanderson's advice. We'll move 4.5 up to the front too. That's on page 247. That's community grant funding for Hunters Hill Public School. Moved Councillor Miles, seconded Councillor Krasoi. Councillor, we have a speaker for this. Thank you. I'm sorry. And that will be Christina Pass, who is our Legal and Governance Officer, and she'll read two statements. The first by Mr. Wayne Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Wayne Evans says, Dear Councillors, thank you for the opportunity to communicate this submission of support for the funding of a sesquicentenary time capsule for Hunters Hill Public School. Thank you.
Thank you, short and sweet. Ms. Kim Dudgeon, who is the principal.
Also a supporter, says, Dear Councillors, thank you for the opportunity to submit a letter of support for the funding of a sesquicentenary time capsule for Hunters Hill Public School. On 24th of September 2020, our school will celebrate its 150-year anniversary. In my capacity as school principal, I feel honoured to be leading the school during this important milestone in our school's history. Since becoming principal in 2019, I have come to recognise that the school is a particularly integral part of the close-knit Hunters Hill community. With many multi-generational families currently at our school, we see the sesquicentenary as a celebration for the broader community, as much as for the school itself. It is with this in mind that the school leadership team has worked with the Parents and Citizens Association to develop an exciting program of celebratory events, historically focused initiatives and publications to mark this milestone. Unfortunately, the ongoing impacts of COVID-19 have led to the postponement of the key events to September 2021. We do, however, wish to ensure the actual anniversary this year is marked appropriately. The time capsule is an important component in these plans. It represents an opportunity for the current students to be a part of history, capturing key aspects of their life in 2020 for future generations to discover. We invite the Hunters Hill Council to submit an item to be included in the capsule also. The capsule will be sealed this year and reopened at the school's bicentennial celebrations in 2070. On behalf of Hunters Hill Public School, I seek your support through the funding of the time capsule as outlined in the business papers. Thank you for this opportunity to present. Kind regards, Kim Dudgeon, School Principal.
Thank you very much. We have a move and a seconder. Would you like to speak to that?
Yes, I will, Mr. Mayor. Obviously, the committee organising this has had to do a bit of a jiffy to deal with COVID, and this was that the school community wanted to do. And I think that given that most of the sesquicentenary celebrations that we were planning on assisting them with this year, including a march from a march not dissimilar to the Anzac Day march from the church on Ferry Street down to the school, and a lot of reunions. This is something that we can do during COVID and during the restrictions that obviously I'm very supportive of council moving ahead with. So I think it's great. I think we should definitely provide the capsule, and I think that moving forward with the other sesquicentenary celebrations, we can probably assist there, whether or not they happen this year or whether they happen next year. I know Loretta and Amy Turner and a number of people on the committee there are still planning big things, but this is something we can do in the meantime, which is great.
Thank you, Councillor Miles. Anybody wishing to speak against? Anybody for? Councillor Sanderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, the history of that school only falls a few years short of the history of this council. It's great in any way to help them record historical events. I was a student of the school, my brother was, my father was, and so was one of my uncles. Unfortunately, there wasn't another generation to go there, but they certainly would have gone there if there had been. Again, we're celebrating another incredibly historic institution of the municipality of Hunters Hill, so I'm very supportive of this minor gesture toward that recording of history.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there anybody else wishing to speak for? Councillor Williams. Could you mute? Go ahead.
It's technology I've got to get used to. Yeah, just to amplify on the importance of the occasion, I think it's yet again another example of our deep and long tradition and history in Hunters Hill, that institutions like our schools have been here, as Councillor Sanderson said, almost as long as the council itself. So they're very important institutions. They develop and grow our generations generation after generation. And so I commend and support it 100%. I just also like to add, when we did the 150-year celebration for the council and its community, there was a time capsule put out the front of the town hall. And just a comment, that was particularly done with printed and readable material. Putting digital stuff into a time capsule may be a bit counterproductive, because once you get to whatever time frame this is, 50, 100 years, the computers we have today may not be the computers of the future. So just to ensure the longevity and the outcome is received, I just put that minor little caution or note. But it's a great initiative, and it's a real shame that we can't celebrate fully the accomplishment of one of the icons of Hunters Hill.
Thank you, Councillor. Anybody else wishing to speak? Councillor Crassus.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say how excited I am to see what our little puppies are going to come up with for this time capsule. What a time they have lived through over the last year. They've seen bushfires, they've seen floods, they've seen climate marches, they've seen so much, these little things. And for this year to be resiliently plodding on through COVID, something that even adults are struggling with, I just can't wait to see what they put in there and what they read 50 years from now. So congratulations to the school for putting forward this fabulous idea, to keep it really positive and to keep the enthusiasm, because these kids, they're our future, and I'm so excited to, well, I might not be here then, but I'm so excited to be part of the council that supported this initiative. So good on you guys.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there anybody else wishing to speak? I congratulate them on the initiative, and I'm very pleased that we're able to assist and get behind it. It's very important. Councillor Miles, did you wish to have a final say?
Only to say, Mr. Mayor, I guess that the Historical Society, and I know that they've been working with us, assist them with memorabilia, and I think they've had a couple of occasions when they brought the kids through the actual museum itself. So they're doing a really good job as well. And yeah, no, it's great to do, but it's just a bit of a shame that things, as the school would have liked for their 150-year celebrations, but I'll be doing some significant stuff.
All right, thank you very much, councillors. I'll put the recommendation. Those in favour, against, thank you, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Which takes us back to 4.1, page 1, Tarban Creek Flying Fox Camp Management Plan. Do I have a mover? Move Councillor Crassoy, seconded. Do we not have a seconder? Councillor Miles. Thank you, Councillor Miles. Councillor Crassoy, would you like to speak to it?
No, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I get the feeling there might be some amendments coming, so we'll wait and see what that pans out to be. The residents around the area are certainly waiting with bated breath for some outcomes here.
Anybody wishing to speak against? For? I'll speak for it. I think one person thought the flying foxes were a good thing, and I think that it might have been me. Just that I should probably declare that. I think I live with Councillor Miles as close, similar distance from their camp. It does cause me concern with the noise and the smell, but I quite like the idea of having animals like that in our area. I've heard a lot about them and what their purpose is, about how they are very important for seed dispersal and also for pollination. And I think that probably we're going to learn a little bit more about them. I must say, I can't see there's an easy way to move them out, but I look forward to this as it progresses in the future. So thank you for that. Councillor Crassoy, back to you. No, can I put the motion, councillors? I'll put the motion. Those in favour, against, that's unanimous. I think I've just lost Councillor Miles for the moment. I think that's unanimous. I think it probably is, considering. Which moves us to 4.3, which is on page 161. It's the status of council resolutions as August 24. Move Councillor Williams, seconded. I'll second it. Councillor Williams. Could we?
Yep, I got it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, it's just an information on what is progressing in relation to the motions that have been put. So I'm happy with the responses that I've got here for the document.
Councillor Sanderson, did you wish to speak against?
No, I don't wish to speak against, Mr. Mayor. I just have one question in relation to a deadline to do with the Hunters Hill Local Government Area Flood Study.
So
that item's on page 168 of tonight's business paper.
Yep.
My concern there was, and I can't recall precisely, but at the time we deferred that matter, part of the resolution was that we were going to have some corrections done to the report. And as I understand it, there was a report that had to be submitted sometime in October in order for us to qualify for funds or funding for that report. Is the status of the current motion? I believe that adoption of the later report would need to come back to council. Are we going to be able to do that in a time frame to be able to claim the funding?
Back to the General Manager.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the Director Service Delivery.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have been liaising with DPI since then, so they are the ones that hold the grant as well, so they're well aware of where we're up to. They've sent, since this has been put together, they've sent us some more feedback via email, which we are going through with our consultant. The plan is to come back to the committee to discuss those potential amendments before coming back to council. But at this stage, they're aware of where we're tracking and haven't raised an issue with with the grants being available, which will be in February.
Okay. Could I get a further clarification? Because my understanding at the night of that particular meeting, I asked a specific question about when we had to get, or what the trigger was, because I think there was a concern about deferring the motion, and I thought, well, we can afford to defer it until October. But the thing that the thing seemed to swing on was us actually endorsing that that report. So I think we need to look at it, and if we find that it's necessary to put that report through quicker, perhaps we can handle it by way of an extraordinary meeting. But I'm still concerned that we have a report that has errors in it that needs to be rectified.
General Manager.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. As the Director said, we've been liaising with DPI, who are the funding body, and I'm sure the team will expedite it, but going through an appropriate process, Councillor.
Councillor Sanderson, would you like to perhaps take that up again tomorrow morning and just clarify those points?
Yeah, my principal concern is, just as long as we don't miss the threshold to get the funding for that report.
Understood. All right, thank you. Councillors, any further discussion required on this?
Yes.
Councillor Collins.
There's a motion for a school safety committee that I understood was meant to have been up and running now. I know it was delayed during the when sort of COVID unfolded, but it seems like everything else has been, every motion since that's been dealt with. We've got the climate emergency, we've got the where has this been forgotten about, or?
Safety committee. All right, General Manager.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this is a school safety committee.
Yeah.
Yes. I understand that the manager place and projects have been liaising with the school principals, and she's actually online. So if the manager place and projects can provide an update on the feedback from the principals. Thanks.
Yes, Councillor Collins, we've spoken with the principals at the previous meeting with regards, and they're keen to support the P&C president or representatives to form a committee of sorts. We've also been looking at to create a survey of active transport needs in the area before we go too far into it. So I would think within the next 2 months, we should have something good for you to look at.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. But that has been, I think we passed it last year, didn't we? Is that really, can we not, is 2 months as soon as it can be done?
I'm not sure on the exact dates that you originally passed it. I picked it up in February, and I have to say it's fallen to the side on some of the issues that we've had to deal with in the community. But it definitely, if we can accelerate it, I definitely will do everything we can to make it happen faster. But from our side, we're also looking at an overarching survey of needs in the area.
Yeah, sorry if I, yeah, it's just, yeah, I would like maybe that to just get a little bit more priority if I can, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the General Manager, because we've got, yeah, it's, I mean, it's an important one to get finished. So I'd like to, it'd be great to see that in September, if possible.
All right.
For
Thank you.
term 4.
Thank you, councillor, and we'll add it to this list, obviously.
Yeah. Oh, and also, I don't think Mary Street needs to be too, probably, yeah. Anyway, I know you're working on it, but okay, it'll be gone by the next one anyway. Oh, can I just ask on that? Is that going to start on the 31st? As
General Manager?
The Mayor to the Director Service Delivery.
Great. Oh, no.
Just checking.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, we're on track to commence, and we'll let a box drop the residents before commencement.
And what's the expected time that it will take?
We'll allow 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, pending no delays. But there is a tree we'll have to work around and some other services there. But 2 to 3 weeks at this point.
Okay. And when do school holidays start?
20.
Not sure. We'll look it up.
8th September.
27th, apparently.
Okay.
Okay. Is there anybody? Councillor Miles, do you have a question or you wish to speak?
I had some connection problems before, so I was bumping in and out. Just the first item, notice of motion regarding Prince Edward Street. I've just noted that for several iterations of this report, it has just been that the letters have been sent. Now, the wording of the actual motion has said that we'd move on this, fairly quickly, and it seems to me that all we've done so far is send letters to the RMS and received a reply that they'll look into it.
General Manager.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the Director Service Delivery, could you provide an update, please, on the actions taken?
Sorry, George.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. We did meet with the RMS rep on site to discuss this, and because it does impact the RMS road, it's critical that we knew which way they would come back at us with this, because we would have to fly with through them anyway. Since this was published, we have received a response late last week, which is asking us to engage a traffic consultant and work with the RMS on a traffic management plan if we were to proceed with this. But they do have their reservations in terms of its impact on Victoria Road and what it would achieve for local residents due to a detour. So we'll work through that with them.
Good. Thank you.
Any other questions, councillors? Can I put the recommendations to receive and note? Those in favour? Against? That's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. We move to item 4.4, which is on page 170, and it's June 2020 review operational delivery program and capital projects. Do I have a mover? Councillor Williams, seconded Councillor Sanderson. Councillor Williams. Could you unlock Councillor Williams?
I'm live now, I think.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, this reporting process, I think, is an important one for council. It's one that enables it to reflect on what it's been doing in recent times, and it's quite an impressive list of activities that have occurred in terms of fulfilling our community's requirements and our promises made during development of our planning process. So I won't pick out any particular aspects, but like most things in life, not everybody agrees with what we do. Not all councillors agree with what we do, but I think what I see here in this document is quite an impressive list of things which we've got on with and provides confidence that council is on track to deliver its program.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Councillor Collins, do you wish to speak?
No, just questions.
A question.
Yeah, if I may. Just on the capital works to be carried over for $3.8 million from 2020 to 2021. Has that been revised upwards?
General Manager?
Since the budget?
Mr. Mayor, no.
No?
No. Would you like the Director of Finance and Corporate Strategy to make a comment on that?
Yeah. I'm just asking a question because I thought there was about two that was carried over, because I know that because when the budget was passed, we announced with the press release of a $4 million capital works plan, and I thought $2 million of that had been carried over, but is that actually $3? Maybe can you comment on that? Whether that.
Yep, yes, to the Director of Finance and Corporate Strategy.
Okay, in the body of the report, there's a reference to how the figures are broken up. So there is some differences, and they basically relate to payments that have had to be carried forward to quarter one, where we were actually paying the invoices in quarter one. So this is typically, we do this as part of the year-end process, and it's a sweep of those last payments that need to be incorporated. So as I said, through that body of that report, there's a breakdown of how that money is divided, but also in the comments which projects have actually been completed and just have invoices that need to be paid.
Okay, so how much of the 3.8 is invoices that are unpaid? Is there anything in that? Because I'm
okay, so just let me make way up to the report. So on page 174, you'll see the breakdown there, which says attachment 2 just under the table.
Attachment 2.
So it's a third dot point there. So 0.505 million, so 500K.
500. Okay, so all right. So of that, and so basically the 3.3 million is actually carried over works. And what was the amount of works that was that changed since sort of June, the June figures we have?
There's a small differences, and that's largely to do with those payments, but I'd have to.
I might do it as a question without. Yeah, that's a bit. Thank you. Sorry, it was a bit of on the spot, but I'll send it through because it does seem different. Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Collins. Councillors, anybody else wishing to ask a question? Councillor Sanderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was waiting to be unmuted. Look, I just support what Councillor Williams has said. This is an outstanding list of what Council is doing, and I think we all should be very pleased with it. I will just make one comment on a very minor matter, and that is on page 238. And I note that we're having TAFE New South Wales utilise Bronia Park to train students in apiculture. This will involve or maintenance work in removing dead wood, which will only improve the park. But my concern there is we've had a bit of issues with our Bushland Management Advisory Committee where dead wood is being removed, which shouldn't be, but being removed would be far better if it was either left there for nesting hollows or to continue to rot naturally in the bush. So I presume that that activity will have, that we suitably supervised in that area.
I'm sure that's the case, Councillor Sanderson. Anyway, we'll take a note and pass it on. Thank you. Councillors, any further discussion? I'd like to compliment, sorry, Zach, did I miss you?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Just in relation to the point 3 of the recommendation, which is the project that's been carried over, could I just get a bit of detail on that? Because I couldn't find reference to what that project was in the report.
which one was it again, please? Sorry.
In point 3 of the recommendation that we're allocating, we're moving the allocation from a project at 169 to 216 Pittwater Road, project 431693.
Sure.
I couldn't find what that project actually was in the body of the report.
General Manager.
Through Mr. Mayor, on page 174, under the heading reallocation of financial year 2020.
Yep.
It was an allocation that we had towards Pittwater Road, and the work that we had proposed has been undertaken by another authority, which has enabled us to reallocate that fund. So the recommendation is to use some of those funds towards Victoria Road to complete the paving works up there, which is critical for the commercial centre there, and the other part to contribute towards funding for the reconstruction works of a road, Gaza Avenue.
So that would be the works that have been completed on Pittwater Road on the right side, or is it?
The works on Pittwater Road, we no longer need an allocation.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So if I could just say, having looked at these with Councillor Miles over the last 8 years on a regular basis, this is without a doubt the most complete delivery program progress report that I've seen in 8 years. It's quite extraordinary that we've achieved so much. And the ones which we're still working on, I can see good progress made on those things. So this was a troublesome report, Councillor Miles, over many years.
It was, yeah, often.
So it's an excellent amount, it's an enormous amount of work to do it, I know, and even to do the work associated with it's a lot more. So my compliments, I think it's incredible. So to all the staff, thank you very much. So if there's no further discussion required.
Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Williams.
Just to add to your 8 years, I think this is the most outstanding report in the last 40 years. Back in the 80s and 90s, nothing ever got done, no matter how hard you prodded, whereas now things seem to be seamless and moving forward.
Thank you very much. That's a very important comment. And I think it gives the staff hope that they see that we appreciate their efforts and we're seeing enormous changes. And we're getting pats on the back. People are talking to me, not many people, 2 or 3 people have spoken to me saying they're noticing the work and they're noticing it's changing. So I'm very pleased to see that. So I'll put the recommendation there on page 170. All in favour? Thank you, councillors. That's a unanimous. So we move on to item 4.6, the summary of council investments as at July 2020. Councillor Collins, move Councillor Collins, seconded Councillor Miles. Councillor Collins.
Pretty self-explanatory, but I can see now that after I raised this on the 27th of July, we've moved $4.5 million away from that call and is now at 0.75%, which is much better. It's going to be around about $30,000 extra a year. And since it was raised, we've earned another $2,000 in interest, which I think is a good outcome. So I'd love to see as little as we can be at call, bearing in mind that we can go on short-term, even 1 month term deposits. But keeping it under 2 is great. So well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillors, any further discussion required on this one? I'll put the recommendation to receive a note. All in favour? Against? That's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. We move on to 4.7, report on legal matters, page 263, August 2020. I move Councillor Williams, seconded Councillor Collins. Councillor Williams, would you like to speak to this?
No, Mr. Mayor, it's self-explanatory. If there's any questions, I guess they'll be answered by staff.
Councillors, any comments?
Yeah, I'd like to just briefly, I was wondering if it would be possible, I've mentioned this before, to get another legal briefing. if there's also a way on this report that perhaps we could have sort of totals of matters that we've, like a summary table to show the total amount outstanding. One of the things that I've been concerned about is not understanding how much, how many sort of fights are going on and what the cost is and what the budget for, and that's certainly not a forum, a public thing to be had. But I was wondering if in the next month, through you, Mayor, to the General Manager, if we could get a briefing on these matters. And I'd also like to understand the sort of, how these come about and where we're at with them.
Yep.
Some of them do seem to be
General Manager.
ticking up.
General Manager, did you?
Yes, we can. Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we can schedule that. Thanks.
Great.
Done. Councillors, any further comments required? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Against? That's carried. That's unanimous. Thank you. We move to item 4.8, which is the minutes of the Conservation Advisory Panel held July 15, 2020. Councillor Williams, moved, seconded Councillor Sanderson. Councillor.
Oh, yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I think it's important to note that the panel is working very well at the moment in terms of the way that it's comprehensively and looking in detail at the proposals that it's being considered. And there's nothing that needs to be highlighted that's not already within these reports. But the panel is working well, and we are getting very good advice and very sound advice from the panel.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Is there anybody wishing to speak against? For? Can I put the motion? The recommendation is receive and note. Those in favour? Against? That's unanimous. Thank you very much, councillors. I think we're up to item 6, general business. I'd like to move general business until after review of the General Manager. I'd like to move that. I second it. Councillor Miles, all in favour? Thank you, councillors. So I move to the review of the General Manager's performance. I propose we move into Committee of the Whole while we deal with the matter of the General Manager review. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Move Councillor Miles, second, and Councillor Crassoy. And all in favour? That's unanimous. I ask that the transmission of the meeting be closed down, and we'll return with a summary at the conclusion of the review, and that should take, I think, about 25 minutes. Thank you guys. Now, if for viewers, we've brought it back.